Don't look at me in that tone of voice. I'm sure we've all heard this from a parent or a teacher, somebody at some point in our life. To many, it seems like nothing more than just some silly old phrase, and quite frankly, it is a silly old phrase. But it's actually to draw attention to the nonverbal cues that we're sending on a day-to-day basis. You're probably sending more nonverbal cues than you're actually aware of. I'll be explaining two simple yet very, very important nonverbal cues that virtually everybody with a pulse sends on a day-to-day basis. The first is through touch, and the second is going to be through your verbal or your facial expressions. The first one is the touch that I'll go over. In today's society, it's very taboo. There's so many rules that go into who you can touch, when, where, how, and why. It may seem very taboo that we're not allowed to touch at all, yet if you kind of look through your day-to-day basis, you realize that you touch a little bit more than you're aware of. Throughout your day, you're probably shaking hands with somebody or even high-fiving your friends. You probably touch people a little bit more than you're aware of. I personally work your average 9-to-5 business sit-at-a-desk job, which you probably think I just sit and interact with my computer all day, and it's fairly true, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm conducting what's called a functional professional touch. I shake hands on a deal, or when a new superior walks in, I have to greet them and shake their hand. And again, outside of work, when you meet up with friends, it seems a little bit odd just to simply wave at them. So typically, you're shaking their hand and patting them on the back, or even going in to give them a hug if you're very close to them. And again, in the clip that we just previewed, the soothsayer clip, there's several touches involved. Like I'd already discussed, there was the functional professional touch between Marcus Lycus and Erroneus. It was towards the end of the clip when Marcus Lycus agreed to rid Erroneus' house of spirits. They conducted in, again, the functional professional touch, and they shook on it to create the deal that, again, Marcus Lycus was going to rid Erroneus' house of the spirits. The other nonverbal cue, again, the touch that was conducted in there was called the startling touch. That one was pretty humorous only because it's one that you don't really see coming. It was towards the end when Erroneus starts walking to the hills to go perform the 7 laps around the city that he was going to do, that Marcus Lycus had instructed him to do. He just turns and starts taking off, and again, it startled him because both Hysterium and Marcus Lycus interrupted his move, turned him directly around the other way, and sent him on his way the other way. Again, it was pretty humorous just because it almost creates a very senile complex as, again, Erroneus assumes he knows where he's going, but in fact he's going quite the opposite direction. The other nonverbal cue that I'm now going to go over is explaining those of the facial expressions. It's a cue that seems so minute, yet probably maybe the most important of all the nonverbal cues. Like I said in the beginning, don't look at me in that tone of voice. Again, you've probably heard it from a teacher, a parent, or somebody in your lifetime. What they're really trying to do is, again, bring attention to the nonverbal cues that you're sending with your face. We've all been 13 years old, and our parents are lecturing on us on one thing or another, and we all responded with, I know, I know. In reality, what your face is saying is, no, you don't know, because you're not looking. I'm a parent, I get this one all the time. I'm very well aware of that one. Another one that we all have experienced at least once in our lifetime is when somebody tells you that we need to talk. For whatever reason, we always automatically assume the absolute worst possible. So when we go and sit down with that person, it's typically a very grave, a very stern expression on our face. 9 times out of 10, they just want to talk, or they want to give us some advice or ask our opinion on something. The minute that we realize that the conversation's a lot lighter-hearted and it wasn't the worst possible news that they could have delivered that we all were expecting, a more calm, relaxed expression comes over our face as a weight has been lifted, and again, our face just instantly shows that. And again, within the clip, the soothsayer that we had just watched, there's many, many different facial expressions throughout that clip. The first is Hysterium's face in the very beginning of the clip. When you see him, he has a very cheerful, carefree look on his face. He instantly catches a glimpse of Erroneus arriving home, and his face just turns to instant panic. His smile turns right down into almost fear. It's pretty comical only because he's minding his own business, going throughout his day-to-day business, and in a sudden instant, his entire world just turns around, which creates some humor in there. The other facial expression is that of Marcus Lycus. When he's reading the cues from behind Erroneous' back, he's showing almost a sense of desperation because he's trying to figure out exactly what Hysterium's trying to tell him. It's a good thing in that case that Marcus Lycus cannot see, because if he could see, he'd realize that both Hysterium and Marcus Lycus are trying to pull one over on him, which they did. And again, I'll say it one last time, don't look at me in that tone of voice. After showing you how easy it is to convey an entirely different message through just nonverbal cues, I'm sure you're going to be more aware of the nonverbal cues you're sending, both in touch and with your facial expressions. I know after looking deeper into this and going over all of this and watching that clip about 10,000 times, I noticed on my day-to-day basis that I send probably more cues with my face than I was even aware of, and I'm sure you will now too.